Hello, women of Cedar Springs, and happy fall. It has been such an exciting time in our church recently as we've been talking so much about building on a firm foundation, looking to a future mission. And that's exactly what's been happening in the women's ministry too, as we're embarking on a new season of women's ministry. We too are building on a firm foundation, years of women's ministry that's been going on. But looking to a future mission, what does God have for us in this next season of women's ministry? And I wanted to take just a few minutes to share that with you. We're so excited about what God's doing, what he's up to, and following him there. And really the place that we are grounding and founding our vision and our mission out of is a very familiar passage. Perhaps you know it. Mark 12, verses 28 to 31. A scribe comes to Jesus and he says, Jesus, what's the greatest commandment? Hey, Jesus, what's the most important thing? There's lots of good things. Lots of people are saying lots of different things. What do you say, Jesus, is the most important thing? And how does Jesus respond? He says, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. This is the greatest commandment. And ladies, aren't we just still asking the same thing? Aren't we all just coming to Jesus and saying, hey, Jesus, what's the most important thing? There's so many good things. There's so many things we could give our time to, our money to, our energy, our efforts. What's the most important thing? What do you say, Jesus? And ladies, the same question yields the same answer. What's the most important thing? Jesus says, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength. And you shall love your neighbor as yourself. This is the greatest commandment. This is the most important thing. And so this is the vision that we're wanting to ground the women's ministry out of as we move forward into a new season. We want to grow women who love the Lord with all of their heart, with all their soul, with all their mind, with all their strength, and love their neighbor as themselves. That is our hope. Okay, so how do we do that, right? That's the question. Okay, so think about it this way. We've got this graphic here that you're going to start seeing a lot of places. And it's really helpful, okay? So if we want to love God with all of our heart, let's take heart to mean all of our full inner person, okay? The heart being the core of us, the cause of us. So that's the ultimate goal, that we would be women who love God with all of our heart, all of our full inner person. Okay, so how do we do that? Well, I think that's where this verse is really helpful and really instructive for us. Okay, there's two inputs that Jesus says, two inputs into the heart. You shall love the Lord your God with all your soul and with all your mind. Those are the inputs into the heart. And that makes sense because how do we interact with God? Two ways, the Spirit and the Word, right? Spirit, interacting with God with our soul, the Word, interacting with God with our mind, right? And so we want to be women who are growing in loving God with all of our mind, with all of our soul, cultivating an inner life. That's going to be things like spiritual disciplines, learning to pray, learning to be in solitude, growing in learning to be with God in silence, listening for his voice. Think spiritual disciplines. We want to be women growing in knowing how to love God with all of our soul. And we want to be women who are growing in loving God with all of our mind. Jen Wilkins says, the heart cannot love what the mind does not know. And I love that. I love that so much. We've got to be growing in our knowledge of God through the study of his word if we're going to be growing in love of him with our hearts. And so we've got Bible studies to help us grow in that knowledge. We've got a big group Bible study, large group Bible study on Wednesday mornings called Grace and Truth. We've got small group Bible studies that meet throughout the week, morning and evening. We've got a Wednesday evening elective coming this fall after fall break to teach you really how to read the Bible. How do we do that? How do we love God with all of our mind? We want to be growing in that, growing in love of God, growing in the love of God with our soul and with our mind. Okay, those are the inputs to the heart. But then we want to have outflow. We don't just want to be loving God for the sake of being a holy huddle and never doing anything with that, right? Like we want to love God so that love penetrates throughout the world so we can be to the world salt and light. And so when God says, when Jesus says, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, I think when he's saying strength there, what he's talking about is our living, right where God has us. What does it look like to love God as a mom? We've got groups for that. We've got groups to help you walk through what that might look like. What does it look like to love God as a physician's wife? When you've just moved to a new city and you're lonely and don't know where the post office is. What does it look like to love God as a single mom? What does it look like to love God wherever you find yourself? We have groups that we want to connect you with to help you learn, to help us grow in loving God with our strength, with all of our living, right where we are. But not just where we are, right? But also God sends us. He tells us to go to all the world, not just where we are, but to places where we're needed, to be on mission, right? And so that's the final step, to love our neighbor as ourselves, not just where we are, but to the places where God is sending us, to the ends of the earth. And so whether that's getting involved with various missions that our church is involved with, whether that's getting involved with our Women on Mission group, whose main focus is missions, we want to be people who are loving this broken world, showing them Jesus at every turn. So what's the most important thing? Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. That is our hope for you as a woman of Cedar Springs. Final thought. I bet you're looking at your fall calendar. You do not have an hour or 2 hours probably laying around with nothing to do. And even if you do, I wonder if a Bible study or a prayer group or a mission opportunity would make your top 3 things that you're going to do with that hour. But I want to challenge us all. If this is what Jesus said is the most important thing, if loving God with all of our hearts is really the only thing that's going to matter, the only thing that's going to last 50, 80, 100 years from now, 100 billion years from now, is there a better use of our time, our energy, our efforts than things that are going to be growing us in that? Is there a better thing? No. So find the time. I want to encourage us all. We have all the time there is. So find the time to be growing in love of God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, with all your strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself, so that we can be the women, so that we can be the disciples of Jesus that he has called us to be. It's the only thing that will matter. It's the only thing that will last into eternity. Thanks for listening, and we sure hope you'll get involved. You can find all the information to get connected, get involved, growing in any of these areas on our website, cspc.net. And you can go under adults, look under women, and you'll find everything there. Or you can reach out to me, Rebecca Peterson, or Carrie Myers. We're so grateful for you. We're so excited for this next season in our women's ministry, and we look forward to you being a part of it. Thanks.